2, 1.
What up, what up, what up, man? We finally back. Episode 14.
Yes.
Shout out to everybody that's going to listen or watch this on a playback. You're rocking with your host, Deshaun Jones, one half of Enveonline.
And his co-partner, Azar Johnson.
Sound like you forgot your name for a second, buddy.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about the AK nickname. I'll figure something out next week. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's been like a week and a half, around the holiday since our last episode.
Yeah.
But for those of you new, for those of you back, you know how we do. We cover a lot of sports topics because we're heavily ingrained in sports right now. Mm-hmm. We even got some hip-hop stuff we're going to talk about. So let's line it up. Over the last couple weeks, we've been in conference play with University of Albany with both the men's and the women. So which one do you want to talk about first, the men's side or the women's side of University of Albany?
Ladies first.
Okay, so there was 2 games since the last time that we talked. The one that we went to the other day, Albany versus Bryant, and then the one a week ago that they play UMass or UMBC.
UMBC. That was both games. Well, UMBC game was bigger because at the time UMBC was right up top there, undefeated.
All right.
And you Albany handed them the first loss.
Gotcha. So just straight out the gate, congratulations to the student athletes and the coaches of the University of Albany women's team. They're currently 5-0 in the conference, man. You predicted this in an old podcast. I want to give you, before we get into the crux of this conversation, we've been following the University of Albany doing media, but a month ago, not a month ago, I'm sorry, during the beginning of the season, you know how we talk about our perspective outlooks on how the season is going to go. I asked you, when we get towards the end of the season, who was going to be the top teams, and I'm just going to hand it over to you. Bring it back up.
I said you Albany, Maine, Bryant, and Vermont. But the only one that didn't, for right now, let me just say this real quick. The only ones that proved me wrong was Bryant. Okay. And they're going through it right now.
In conference play.
Yeah, in conference play. Because they seemed okay. When it initially started right before conference play, everything lined up the way I thought it was going to line up.
So for the basketball fans that's going to watch this on a playback, let's give them a little education of why you said what you said. So for people who don't know, for the American East, when you play in the regular season, when you hit conference play, 2 different styles of play, man.
Right.
So I want you to walk them through it real quick of what you saw in some of those teams and how things are coming to fruition in conference play.
Well, I guess we could start with, with Maine. Maine is always there. Like with Coach Amy Vachon, what she does is she makes her schedule so tough in the non-conference play that it always looks like when they come into conference play, this look like the year Maine gonna have issues. It's not that they're having issues. They're playing like top 25 ranked teams, and if they're not in the top 25 rank, they're like at the top of their conferences. So by the time they come around a conference play, they just do what they know how to do best. So the level of play that they've been playing, they keep it up. And they end up where some of the schools in their conference don't end up scheduling some of the top schools, so they don't have a tougher schedule. So the level of play that Maine brings to the conference when they play other schools is a whole nother different level than what most schools are used to dealing with. That's with Maine. What I saw in Vermont is that with Vermont, they have experience. It's Emma, I forgot her name, but anyway, the Vermont had experience from last year, and they've been moving ever since they had that coach. Go ahead.
Real quick, since we're touching on Vermont, do you think, because the record is 11-6, but in conference they're 3-2, what are you seeing with that?
I see that they're there, but I think they still got to get over the hump. I think they're gonna have to show. See, Vermont will be there in the end, but they're gonna have to show. It's like kind of what I hate to bring this up because I think Brett Favre is a scumbag. By the way, as a side note, it's like when the Packers before they started winning Super Bowls or getting to the Super Bowl because they only got to 2. They were okay and good until they played Dallas or the 49ers.
Gotcha.
So it's like with Vermont, they look good until they got to go play Maine, until they got to go play Albany. See, that's when until you show us that it's like you gonna be right there in the top 4, but when is it gonna be? You gonna be the top team and you gonna win the tournament?
Come on, man. Hopefully not this year, man.
No, I'm just speaking from an.
You know what?
Objective.
Not actually, because that could be a championship matchup in the American East. It could be
Facts.
New Albany versus Vermont, but we don't know because conference play is still early.
Right.
I want to kind of paint this picture for both. UAlbany won both games, but if you watched the game, whether you was there, whether you watched it online, man, both of those games I had a mini heart attack in the first period or the first half, as you want to say.
Yeah.
So I'm going to line this up. The way that I want to talk about these two games is I'm going to give you a little sports analogy, as we used to say when we play video games. You crack the code.
Yeah.
I really feel that the University of Albany and their coaching staff cracks codes every game.
Facts.
UMBC jumped out to that 11-2 start, and then even throughout the first half, they was jumping and pouncing on UAlbany. I was sitting there like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
They about to hand them that L.
Yep.
Goes into halftime. You know the speech. Can't repeat the words.
Yeah.
Comes back out.
Yeah.
Totally different team. Totally different offense. Totally different defense, man.
Yeah.
You know, then we talked to them in a press conference, and like the student athlete said, sometimes you got to be reminded who you are.
Facts.
Can you talk about the I want to say the veteran leadership, because they don't really have a young team. They have a well-balanced team with, you know, sophomores, juniors, and seniors and so forth, plus the championship experience. Can you talk about when we heard that from the student athletes of coach had to remind us who we are?
Yeah. Yeah. Were you talking about the UMBC game?
Both of them, because it said it in both times.
It looked like, let's say this too. They weren't. It looked like UMBC came to play.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, like, and shout out to Janetta Hayes, because I thought it was gonna take another year to get to what I'm seeing now, because they had to play through COVID last year. They were just trying to get through the season. Making a long story short, they came out and they showed why they were one of the top teams, and they still are one of the top teams in the conference. They have a team like Kiara Bell, Tai, number 22, and there's another one. They were creating problems all day. No, KK White. I'm sorry, number 22, KK White, Nia Staples, and Kiara Bell. They were just creating issues all first half. And it seemed like in the second, when Coach Mullen decided to say, look, this is the adjustments we're going to make.
That code.
She figures it out. I keep saying this, and I said this in a previous podcast, you only got one time to throw a punch on her. The minute you throw that punch, she going to figure it out. Like, she going to see how you moving, and then after she see your combo, she's going to get you, like one way or the other. What I think was more important, I cannot stress this enough, is Kayla Cooper. She is the biggest difference in there. And I could go down the line, because that roster is so talented. It's so stacked and talented. But Kayla Cooper is the truth. Let me give out a point. I ain't going to say what team it was, because matter of fact, we wasn't even on this podcast for the Vermont game.
Nope.
So we're talking about Vermont, UMBC, and Bryant.
Yeah, I had to watch that game.
So, yeah. So the thing is like with Kayla, I saw one, I'm not going to say what team it was. I was on the other end of the floor. I saw the girl elbow Kayla, and she like brushed it off. Like she like if she was standing right next to you right now having a conversation, like I swear I wanted to go up to her and tap her like, "Are you okay?" But like Kayla's tough. You get what I'm saying? And it's not just only her defense. It's when she comes in the game, I see people trying to stop her and it don't work. Like, that's dangerous. You know what I mean?
But to your point, for both of those games, for the UMBC game and the Bryant game, UMBC, let's start that off first. She had 4 to 5 steals that game.
Yeah.
And her defense, from picking in the passing lanes and just ripping the ball out of the offensive hands, that really jump-started her offense and got the team to a whole nother level.
Yeah. And let me also say, Ellen Heine, I pray to God I'm saying this right, so I'll see you next time. Ellen Heine, she always scores. It seems like since Kayla has come in and done what she always does, Heine has took a back seat, and meaning like she hasn't aggressively went at it. But I think it's two things. I think she hasn't been aggressively been at it, but I think also this is another thing. They're also focusing on her. So because they know if you look at before when all those injuries was hitting, Heine was hitting all those shots. She was making all those points. They came into the conference play 6-8. They weren't bad.
Yeah.
So understanding like that's what Heine just playing, and she was just doing what she always does. So now that you got Kayla coming in there just beasting, I mean, what you want to do?
It's like you have to you have to pick your poison.
Yeah.
So before we jump on the other topic, she did the same thing in the game the other day versus Bryant.
Yeah.
Getting in passing lanes, starting to be dominant. But what we saw from that game was a dominant duel.
Yeah.
I want to pronounce her first name, so I'm just going to stick with her last name. Hagerstein.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Oh, she's another lethal.
Her and Cooper were going off.
Yeah.
You couldn't. It was like, okay, you want to double Kayla in the post? Okay, well, what you gonna do with Hagerstein? You can't stop her. Then here's something that I like to say, because I a lot of basketball. There's certain things that doesn't come up on a stat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you analyze basketball, you can't just stat watch.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't paying attention to another veteran on that team because sometimes her contributions isn't like, 20 points a game, but Grace Heaps started that game off knocking down a three, but she does a lot of facilitating, which is very underrated, spreading the floor, knowing how to stay in her lane and play her role.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
She's another one. It's just certain things that don't come up on a stat sheet that you really got to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. So I want to shout out to Miss Grace Heaps. Very underrated on that team. Very
super facts.
You see players such as, what's her name? Is it Morgan?
Morgan Haney.
Another one. And she can thrive in her role. This is another good role player. Go ahead.
This is where I was gonna go with it. I'm gonna let you say, because I'm gonna let you take the credit for it. That's what I keep saying. Like Haney and Grace and all of them, like they could go. They fall back. Like sometimes they don't have to do that. Like Grace can shoot you out of the building, and Morgan can shoot you out of the building. They set the tone. We
saw that last year,
and they fall back, and they like, yo, we just gonna do what we gonna do.
You remember how many games last season Grace was hitting lights out 3-pointers?
Yeah,
that takes a lot to say. You know what? I'm gonna be disciplined. It's bigger than me.
Yeah,
I might not hit 4 threes this game, but I'm gonna be a great facilitator and a great hustler.
Yeah,
you know what? I can be doing this, that, and the third. I'm speaking of Morgan, but I'm gonna get my buckets, but I'm going to play this role.
Yeah.
Another thing, I forgot what game it was. It was the game that neither one of us went to. Was it UMass Lowell, Vermont? It was the game on TV that I was asking you about because you were somewhere else. Might have been UMass. Or Vermont.
No, we saw them against Vermont.
Okay, so might have been UMass Lowell.
They tore Vermont up, yeah.
It was UMass Lowell because I watched that game. Mm-hmm. They're getting great bench production as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody coming off that bench is contributing one way or another, not just in scoring, whether it's defense, whether it's rebounds. Shout out to another underrated player, which sometimes things don't come off the stat sheet. But in the game that I watched that was on ESPN3, I want to say UMass Lowell. Fatima Lee off the bench was big.
All day.
Second quarter in that game that I watched, both teams only scored 5 points. I was like, yo, this is a scoring drought, man. Inserted her towards the end of the second quarter, going into the third quarter, 7 points off the bench, lit it up. Yeah. She's another one that comes off the bench and plays her role. Mm-hmm. Doesn't complain, doesn't give attitude. She's giving energy on the bench. So, well-balanced team from the starters. Whether you're contributing big points or not, they just have so many weapons, and everything doesn't come up on a stat sheet. That's why it's dangerous, and more importantly, they're healthy, man.
Yeah, they're healthy. Let me also say this, and I said this before on a previous podcast, but we gonna figure this out. I want to give credit to Coach Mullen, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna give her credit. And I've said this before, but I don't care. We're gonna say it again. I don't think she gets the credit she deserves. You got to remember when she came here, the car was not, like when Coach McNamee, and there's no discredit to her, she had left, but there wasn't a team that was left. She had the pieces left over from Coach Abe's team. So she had Amani Tate. She had Jessica Freckray. She had Mackenzie Tropic. She had Kiara Frames. She had Alexi Schechter. She had Heather Foster. So she had all those pieces. By the time she left, I think Forster was left and Schechter was left and Frames was left, but Amani Tate and Jessica Freckray had left, and Mackenzie Tropic, who was one of the key pieces, she had transferred. So mind you, when Coach Mullen comes in, she's only got 3 players that that were kind of at that level. Mind you, when she and she did what she, show how good of a coach she was. This wasn't what was impressing me about Coach Mullen, because they made the number 4 seed that year. They got knocked out by Maine, right? Knocked out Bingham in the first round, and then the next round they got knocked out by Maine. That's a short version. Then the next year, she only had Alexi Schechter and Kiara Frames. Heather Foster had graduated. She was done, right? There was I think Morgan was there. I think Morgan had just got there, but Morgan had that.
She's a player I remember.
She blew her knee out. So Morgan, and let me tell you, knowing what I know now about Morgan, it would have just been a whole different world sooner than later. But Morgan blew her knee, first game, right? Out for the year. There were players on that team, even with Frames and Schechter there, and even with Cansey, who wasn't really playing her position, so she was playing out of position but contributing to the team. There was players that weren't ready to play. They couldn't play. This is just a different level when you're coming up from high school, right? Girls are just as fast as you. Other players can shoot just as good as you. Even like I said, Izzy, the guard Izzy, I forgot her last name, but she was there. She had made a comment post-game and said, yo, this is a different pace of game. This is a different pace. She said that, right? Long story short, most coaches would have been aggravated and just quit and do whatever. Coach Mullen kept coaching through it, whatever. They got to the number 8 seed of the playoffs. Now, remember, there's 10 teams. And there are 9 teams. So there's one team that's got to sit out. Coach Mullen wasn't going to be that team. So she refused to let that go. Then she goes up into Stony Brook as a number 1 team. And this is the year when COVID shut everything down. She went in there as a number 8 seed. It could have been an easy blowout. She took them into overtime. They had them. You get what I'm saying? By the time, in other words, what I'm saying is those players who weren't ready to play, they came to play, and they almost took Stony Brook out of the playoffs. And they were the only team at the time that was going to be Maine. So to give you an idea of how prepped she had them, the other girl, Michaela, is somewhere at St. Rose in Division III. And I don't even think Izzy's playing basketball anymore. Mm-hmm. That's how good of a coach she is. So understand my point. Then the next year you see the progression. They get to the number 4 seed, and they're basically just playing through COVID. And then last year, we saw everything we needed to see. And they knew what they was going to do. And I think the thing is they took Stony Brook's best shot, and then they beat them. They took Maine's best shot, and then they beat them. And then they did something that they could, and when they beat them, they did something that's only other than I've ever seen Stony Brook do. They went up into Maine, and they took it to Maine. They beat Maine. And they didn't just beat Maine by last-second shot. They made a point that they beat Maine. Like, there was no possibility for Maine to win that game.
What did you keep saying about this team? You only got 1 shot versus Colleen's offense and defense, and she's going to figure you out.
Yeah.
They came to you, Albany. They beat her the first time. Mm-hmm. She cracked that code and beat them.
Yeah.
Before we get off this topic, I want to speak about the Bryan game because
that was
we kind of talked about it for this 15 minutes. Yeah. In post game, I had a chance to ask her about competing against the veteran coach on the other side. The coach name is slipping me. Maybe we can look it up real quick.
I know you're talking about too.
Give us 1 second.
Something. Who's also a great coach. She got them to the NEC championship last year. So that makes her dope all around.
Let's get some Jeopardy music. Okay. Got the website up. Mm-hmm. It's not out right now. Okay. It's slipping me. Please forgive me. Mm-hmm. You keep looking, but I'm going to talk. Basically, the coach on the Bryant side had over 25 to 30 years of experience, real experienced coach.
Mary Burke. Coach Burke.
Please forgive me. Head coach Marion Burke. Did I say it correctly?
Mary Burke, yeah.
My apologies. Head coach Mary Burke from the Bryant women's basketball team. So the backstory is very experienced coach, a lot of accolades. On the other side, Colleen had to go off. So usually after the game, you always talk about the players, rightfully so. It's a players' league. But to me, that had to have been a chess match. This is a coach with 30 years to over 25 years of experience, and now y'all have to go X's and O's. You see that in the football, man. Sometimes you get out coached.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Colleen coaching up against head coach Mary? Let me say it over. How do you feel about head coach Colleen Mullen facing off X's and O's with head coach Mary Burke?
I think it was a great matchup, but I think that because she clearly saw some things. They kept penetrating the paint. I noticed that when we was watching that game, they kept getting in the middle, and they don't play like an on fight. They came out with guns blazing, like Bryant. So I felt like to answer your question, I felt like it was a great chess match. I felt like Coach Burke, I got a feeling she's going to also do what Coach Mullen did. She's going to figure this out. She did that last year with the NEC. She had came around. She was very patient, being at what she was, and then she figured out how to get to the championship game last year in the NEC, right? So I think with the American East, she's going to go through the growing pains of what she's going to go through. And I think come down the end, mark my words, by the end of next February, we're going to might be seeing a different Bryant team. So I think they're going to be one of those teams, even wherever they're ranked at, they're going to be scary.
And head coach Colleen Mullen filled us in with a jewel. She said that she recruited her back in the day.
Yeah, recruiter, yeah.
That was big.
Yeah.
Moving forward, obviously, since they're at the top of the conference, everybody's going to be gunning for them. You're 5-0. You're healthy now, so now everybody knows you won last year. Do you see any potential upsets? There always is a chance for upset, but in your opinion, looking at this conference, what team should you Albany worry about moving forward to win the squad?
In all fairness, every team, but if there's one, maybe two teams that I can see as scary to beat them, Maine can always can pull it off. Maine they have the capabilities to pull it off. If I had to be honest, I would see UMBC. Let me be honest. I think Binghamton.
Okay.
I think Binghamton. If you look at Binghamton, I know they lost last night. If you look at Binghamton, they be winning games. And for whatever reason, they ain't figuring it out at the end. I don't know what that's about, because that's
been 2 or 3.
That's kind of shocking with Coach Orr. Like, she always keep losing there at the end. And that's not
characteristic
of a Coach Orr team. So I don't know what that's about, but that's also the credit to say the ball can go either way. Like with Binghamton, you ain't gonna pull away. It ain't gonna be decisive. You are gonna have to pull last minute. So you better have, the cojones to pull off that shot you want to pull off to make it to beat them. And especially if they got you on their home court, it gets even worse. So I think they have the capability. If I want to say, let me put it like this: Maine is a team that can. Binghamton is, and specifically UMBC. Because if UMBC starts figuring things, let's take away this UAlbany game. I want to see how UMBC responds for the rest of the month at this UAlbany game. If it's what I think we're gonna see, I don't think you want to be in their home. You don't want to be. It's like Maine. Even though Albany women went and see the difference is with UAlbany. What makes them a great team? Not to sound all over the place. It don't matter where they go. They gonna beat you. They are gonna beat you. They've already played you once. They are gonna beat you. They have teams scared to death. I'm telling you. I know. I can see it. So it doesn't really matter with them. But as far as with UMBC, if they get you in their home, you in trouble. You're in trouble.
That's fair. So, shout out to the UAlbany's women. Spend a nice 25 minutes on that topic. Let's switch over and talk a few minutes about the UAlbany's men team.
Okay.
So,
I got some stuff. So I'm gonna let you lead with this one.
Since the last podcast, we've seen 2 games. They just dropped the game that we weren't able to go to, where they played Bryant at Bryant's home court. But then the game prior to that, they shocked the whole conference, man. They took out UMass Lowell. And I know you had your feelings about that, what you thought, and I had mine. So we'll go back and forth on this topic. So for the Great Danes, first we'll talk about them versus UMass Lowell.
Okay.
Man, that was poetry to me when I was watching the game. It was like poetry in motion. for the basketball heads who might not be too familiar, UMass Lowell was number 1 in the conference and pretty much undefeated in conference play.
Mm-hmm.
So Albany, on the other hand, was 0-3.
Yeah.
0-3, so it wasn't looking too good.
No, it wasn't. Mm-hmm.
So before I give my opinions, I'm going to lob it up to you, and you tell me how you felt about them winning that game.
I felt like, well, let me say this. UMass Lowell, Albany came to play. That's the benefit. That's a plus. Or Aaron Reddish came to play. They
Drungle,
yeah,
Patel, all of them.
Not to be funny, and it's no insult. I think it was like their Super Bowl. They kind of like that's their team. It's like their team in their conference, not their Super Bowl. It's like the equivalent of, I always go to football. So with the Falcons, it's like us playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're gonna give our best game because it's Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and they're the best team in the conference. That's kind of what they did to UMass Lowell. They came to play. Not to say they don't play a game in the other game, but that's the top team. So against a team like them or Vermont, you're going to see Albany come all out. And I don't know. I think it's for UMass Lowell, because let me say this, especially after what I saw last night. It felt like UMass Lowell, not to say that they overlooked Albany and Albany was lucky, but they came, I think their mind was on Vermont. Because they have Vermont.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got some pushback, but go ahead.
That's okay, man. You can push back. You can push back. Vermont was playing on Wednesday. That's the team. It doesn't matter if you get Vermont away or you get them at home. When you want to win the championship in the American East, it's going to go through Vermont. Don't matter if you got the home championship floor. Vermont is going to be there. So I think UMass Lowell had it in their head, like they saw what happened to Bryant, because Bryant got beat by Vermont. So their thing was, we got a Albany team. They in last place. We just gonna come in and do what we do. And then they found out the hard way, no, you're not gonna come in here and do what you do. And I think part of it was that they was looking at Vermont. They thought they already had this one, and they didn't. And let me all say, all fairness, people say, well, how do you figure that? Well, not to be funny, there was a game New Year's Eve that I saw, and that was bad.
That's fair.
Now
that is fair.
So I know if they saw it, what we saw, they was like, we gonna smash them.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add some pushback on this.
Yeah.
Shout out to both teams. Shout out to both sets of student athletes. Mm-hmm. Since I'm more of the basketball person, pardon me. Since I'm more of the basketball person, mm-hmm. one thing you don't do in basketball, because I see my Celtics do it a lot of times. Mm-hmm. They'll go out and beat the Nets and then drop 2 to the last team in the conference. And I'm sitting in here ripping my hair out.
Yeah.
And so the other Celtic fans, sometimes you have to look at basketball and boxing the same. Mm-hmm. You play around all you want. You can get punched in your mouth too. Mm-hmm. How many fighters we seen get knocked out? Mm-hmm. Oh, back in the days of Mike Tyson, what he said, I ain't trained versus Riddick Bowe. I was, doing... Yeah, I just leave the sniffing sound and
Buster Douglas.
Yeah, Buster Douglas. My apologies, Buster Douglas. Mm-hmm. Like, and you get knocked out. Mm-hmm. So with basketball, I don't accept on my end. Now, with you is different, but I don't accept on my end when the team said, I just wasn't paying attention. Bring your best game every game. Mm-hmm. So with University of Albany on my end, to me, you got to take whatever film you got from that, and you need to put that on the wall every practice. Mm-hmm. You need to study that. Not saying that every game's going to be like that because they shot 65% for the entire game. No team does that. Mm-hmm. Not even UMass Lowell.
Right.
But they did some great things defensively that you have to take and use. Mm-hmm. Let me say this. We were at that New Year's Eve game. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure their coach let them have it, rightfully so.
Right. Yeah, he said it in a post-game press conference.
What Albany is dealing with, and I'm not trying to cut them any excuses because you have to win at the end of the day. Even the coach said that. Mm-hmm. But we have to be fair. I had a chance to interview the coach preseason and, talk about the roster and so forth. Albany has been injured the entire season. Mm-hmm. Now, we saw that with the women's team, but they gradually got healthy leading into conference play, and we see them reaping the benefits of them being healthy now. I was expecting, I'm be honest, I was expecting the same thing for the University of Albany. Nobody foresaw Justin Nelly ripping his knee on his first start back. Nobody foresaw Namir Little being out with a season and the hip surgery that he needs. At one point, Marcus Jackson was injured with a shoulder. Their point guard, I want to say his name is Malik. Now he has a broken finger. And I didn't get a chance to see the game versus Bryant, but when I checked the stat sheet, there was no Aaron Reddish on it. So I'm thinking he was out on top of all that. They look like they barely had 7 or 8 players in rotation. Jesus. They are so spread thin that if you cough, the whole team will be out. I'm not cutting them any excuses, but they're beyond injured.
Right.
They're probably the biggest injured team in the whole American East Conference. There's not much you can do when you're that injured. Your bench is short. You don't have nice rotations. If somebody's not feeling well, what are you going to do? With respect to that game, they did some great things defensively because you said, when you guys had a lead, how did you maintain that lead? That was a question that you asked in the post game.
Right.
They was able to maintain the lead and not give it up. What I saw on my end was the smart defensive rotations. He kept switching that power forward spot. And this is what I asked because I saw it's like an underrated thing he did. He already has an athletic roster. Your point guard, Marcus Jackson, is a 6'2" problem child. He's going to start getting the respect he deserves. He's only a freshman. People are just now seeing him. But I see how he plays defense. I see how he rebounds. That kid is an athletic problem. On the wings, you have 6'8" Aaron Reddish who can jump, who's wiry. On the other end, you have Gerald Grum. I want to pronounce his last name. Drumgoole Jr., who's tall, athletic. Behind him, you have 6'9" freshman Jonathan Beagle, who's winning Rookie of the Year honors every single week, but also gets double-doubles and rebounds. The other piece that they needed was who's on the power forward side. So I want to say sometimes they sub in depending on who they're playing. The kid Tyree, I think that's his name, Tyree. They call him Huss. But for this game, they started subbing in the kid Japana. Is that his name? Am I pronouncing it right?
No, I think so. Yeah.
Japana. Now that kid, I think he's a junior, 6'8". Kid looks like he has a 40-inch vertical. Every time UMass Lowell came down, they sped them up. They made them take shots they didn't want to take. See, that's what people didn't see on that stat sheet outside of the score. Once they sped them up and UMass started throwing up shots, who's going to get the rebound over 6'9" Jonathan Beagle? Because he's not a skinny 6'9". He's a husky 6'9".
Right.
Who's going to jump over Marcus Jackson on a guard position? See, this is what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Who's going to jump over 6'2" Marcus Jackson, who can jump himself? Who's going to out-jump 6'8" Aaron Reddish? Who's going to out-jump the kid Japana? I'm sorry, Japanite. I want to pronounce his name right, but the kid I'm referring to. You can't. That's what happened. That one defensive rotation that he kept switching in and out and then getting him back off and rotating. It was beautiful. Then on the other end, they got out on transition, just made things happen.
Right.
They have to study what they did defensively and apply it to other games. And I think they're going to be all right. There's not much you can do. You pretty much have to stay pat and just let your pieces get healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I let me say this. I don't want them to hang their head because some games they only have 7 to 8 players. What do you think they can pull out the rest of the conference play with how short their roster is?
Do I do like as far as what getting deep into the conference, making a run is what you're asking me?
No, like what mindset should they have from your perspective? Because it's so
they should have a mindset of basically just running the table and giving what they want.
It's so
I feel like with the pieces you named, they just need time. So as much as you might be taking L's here and there right now, all you got to do is when it comes down to the end, get hot. Work this. Look at this as like this is our way for when we get down the stretch, we're gonna be ready. So we're gonna be ready to start playing, making some changes. to think that you're going to have home court all through. So when the American East tournament start, you will not. We're going to start making problems for that. And when we get in the tournament, we're going to make a problem for you too, because we're going to be a well-gelled team and be ready to play. And it's kind of, not to bring up Coach Mullen's team, when I saw that year after the year that Heather Foster left, that's what they kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting more fearless and more fearless as the season started grinding down to the end. And by the time they got to Stony Brook, they didn't care. They played like they just didn't have nothing to lose, and they really didn't. So
thank you.
So
you took the words right out my mouth.
So I think with Coach Killens, that's what they're in his team. That's the way they got to look at it. I want to elaborate on some of Coach Killens and but I'll wait till you're done.
I'm done. You go ahead.
Well, I want to say that, and once again, we haven't done this podcast, until just this past year. So to kind of give it, and I'm not going to give the whole history of UAlbany, but when we started covering UAlbany had Cremo Nichols.
Cremo
Nichols.
Because Cremo's from here. We got to get that right.
Right. My whole thing was, when I got around UAlbany, I saw them coming. And these two kids were nice, but I think that year, nobody expected them to kind of do what they did. And they ended up getting to the American East Championship game. They almost beat Vermont, which was still a foul. I'm not going to get into that, though. The point I'm making is that after that year, the next year, they were expected to go to the American East Championship.
I remember that.
They were supposed to be the champs. Going to every game. They're doing what they're doing. The arena is packed. They're showing up. The minute, and they were right where they were supposed to be.
What happened in conference play? Ed?
Conference play happened, and they went downhill. And something was wrong. Now, I'm not blaming Will Brown, and I don't know what happened, but there was a problem. And after that,
he lost the
team. Cremo left. Nichols left. They went on.
Nichols went to Florida State, and Cremo went to Villanova.
And they both went to the NCAA tournament.
And Cremo even went to the G League. I don't know. Yeah. I think he's across seas right now.
Yeah. So let me make this clear. Then there was other players that came. Okay, Amar Clark was there. He toughed it out, and he gave his best to show how ill Amar Clark was. He had them at number. Yeah, he was dope, man. He just didn't have, like, had Cremo Nichols came back with him, they might have had a chance. But now you got him in rebuild mode, and then you had DeSosa there, and then you had
Sosa left,
and then you had he left, and then Neely and Rizzuto left, and not Neely and Rizzuto, but he had Neely and Rizzuto, and they were supposed to be good, and something didn't work out with them, and I think Rizzuto even started sitting the bench.
Well, one of them went in conference, like to UMBC or Bryant,
whatever. But the point I'm making is that he wasn't being able to recruit players, and this is not a pass for Killens. But the man was there for 19 years, and he and he did a lot of great things. I think he's a great coach.
Much respect
to him. But for whatever reason, you were not winning in your conference. You can't even get kids to come to Albany. Let that sit there. You can't get kids to come to Albany. Vermont's winning the title every year. UMBC broke the code one year, but I'm thinking in the back of my mind, if I'm an AD, like, yo, what's wrong with you, man? You can't get no kids to come up here and say, yo, we going to go beat these dudes and we can go in the tournament? For whatever reason, it wasn't working out. And my whole thing is that at the end of the day, that was 19 years of work. So I don't know.
You can't expect 19 years to be rebuilt in a year and a half.
And the thing is with Killens, his first year, he has to come in, say, look at what I got, work with this, implement my system, and recruit at the same time. He's doing this all in the same time.
He do that first year because some people gave him flack. I'm going to parse my words correctly. He went 500 in the conference.
Yeah.
His first year.
Yeah. So my whole thing is I'm not really expecting nothing from right now. That's not to say he shouldn't be winning or he shouldn't be doing this. He's replacing somebody that was there for 19 years. And let me be honest, and it's not a shot at Will Brown. He was there for 19 years there too long. Because that year after Nichols and Cremo left, the next year we all knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, we did.
It was bad. And then the following year, it looked okay, but we all knew they weren't going to beat nobody and get to the tournament because he had Clark. And then DeSosa left, and then you saw Haley and Rizzuto and said, oh, maybe we could have this hope.
Because they were shooters.
Right. And then one of them ended up not even playing no more. He was just on the bench. I don't know what happened. I didn't even care at this point. So that's 3 extra years that you kept dude around and that this was a mess. Killens is cleaning up a mess. There was a mess. That's kind of what I was alluding to with Coach Mullen. It wasn't a mess. It was just that on the back end, once Coach Abe's players left, you ain't got really nothing to work with. You don't have that. You don't have that. There's no in between. So she had to, and in that year she figured it out. To make a point, that's what Killen's doing. He's going to have to figure it out, but it's going to take time. I know nobody didn't think he was going to win no title last year. I know nobody didn't think that.
This was my expectations because, like I said, I had the opportunity to interview him before the season start. I saw 3 freshmen last year that showed a lot of promise. Mm-hmm. Justin Neely,
yes,
Namir Little, and Aaron Reddish.
Yeah,
I knew that this was going to be their year as incoming sophomores to step up and really shine, and then build a culture. I also knew, because I've been watching this kid's AAU highlights. I said many times on Twitter, social media, that this Jonathan Beagle kid is going to be a problem. And I'm going to touch on him a little bit after this. I don't think people seeing how powerful he's about to be. That's a whole nother subject. But my expectations was he's developing talent. We haven't had, I'm not trying to discredit the previous players under Will Brown. I don't think we had that level of athleticism in Albany under Will Brown. No,
the players that's there now, Will Brown
from an athletic standpoint, have we? Let's speak truth to power. From an athletic standpoint, have we seen these players before?
No, and that is my point. If any of these players, if Will Brown was there, none of these players of this level would be there, period. Okay. That's what my point is.
So now, that was the only thing I was, I want to win. Yeah, who doesn't want to win as a sports fan and as somebody doing media? But you got to develop talent over 1 or 2 seasons. And then your 3rd, 4th year, you start seeing the fruits of that labor.
We'll see it.
So, in saying that, what happened? First start for Justin Neely, he tears his knee. A couple games later, Namir Little's out. Those are huge blows for rotation pieces. Yeah. And one of them was a starting piece, because if people follow Justin Neely last season, he had like rookie of the year for American East like 6 weeks, like 5 weeks in a row. Yeah. That kid is capable of 15 to 20 points a night with like 5 to 7 rebounds.
Facts.
So if you add that alongside of what you're seeing, you have a deep team. I honestly, and again, I'm not giving passes, you just have one of those players healthy. You're not in this position right now. Yeah. So moving forward, I just think he and the team have to weather the storm, like you said. You have nothing to lose at this point. Everybody should be working on their game and not packing it up. Like I said, you had 7 or 8 players the last game. Adversity builds character. Adversity builds character.
Facts.
This is Albany's adversity season. For the men's side, they're going through a lot of stuff. I'm not going to get into all the politics. It's not my business to put that out on Front Street. Adversity builds character. Stay the course. This team comes back, and I'm going to knock on some wood, if the basketball gods are with them next season and they bring these players back. I'm not even talking about going crazy recruiting and getting transfer players. They bring these players back, and you get a Justin Neely healthy for the second half of the season. They got a kid from Camden, New Jersey. Let me just tell you real quick. At the time that I asked Killen about this, he couldn't speak on it because the signing day didn't happen yet. Yeah. I'm very in tune with high school sports. For people wondering why I just brought up Camden, go through the history of Camden. They've been ill since a guy named DeJuan Wagner Sr. Anybody remember that name?
I sure do.
Used to play with LeBron James before he had the stomach problem. His son, DJ Wagner, is on that team. They're always in competition at the end of the year for a championship. I'll just put that there. They managed to get a kid from Camden, New Jersey, off that Camden squad that's going to become the New Albany next year with the pieces they already have. With a Jonathan Beagle figuring out that, there might be a couple 6'8" guys in the conference, but they're not as strong as me in the paint. Because trust me, I looked through many of these teams' rosters. Yeah, you got some 6'8" guys, but are they as big as him, athletic as him? Can they shoot, spread the floor, pass, and do the stuff that he can do?
Right.
Not many of them can.
Not at all.
They just have to. I hate to say this because I don't want to bite the 76ers. You got to trust the process.
Yeah.
Fall in love with the journey. Keep creating the culture that you're creating.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I'll be praying that the basketball guys are with them next year on a health tip.
I think when it's all said and done, because I hear the noise around. I'm not even going to entertain that stupidity and mess I'm hearing. Killings will get them to where they need to be. And you all be, let's pray to God Coach Mullen stay there next year. Because with the job she's doing, I can assure you there's going to be somebody coming with a bigger check. He'll get the level of expectability back to us winning American East championships. That's where that's how great of a coach I think he's going to be.
I'm confident in his coaching ability, but
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying it. I don't think people, because they're losing, people are missing the talent. Because sometimes people stat watch.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, they're losing. They're at the bottom of the barrel. Let me say what my expectations of this young student athlete, Jonathan Beagle, is. And I'm not trying to put too much pressure on you just in case you hear this. If he gets with a strength and a conditioning coach, I'm not talking about his on-court skills. I'm talking about off the court.
Mm-hmm.
If Jonathan Beagle gets with the strength and conditioning coach after this season and really busts his butt in the gym, 20 to 24 points and 10 to 12 rebounds a game next year. I'm going to say that again because somebody might think I'm just hyping this because we cover you Albany. If Jonathan Beagle gets with the strength and conditioning coach for the off season and really goes hard from March to October, which is the start of the basketball season, for his sophomore year, and he's healthy, again, knock on some wood, I see 20 to 24 points and 12 rebounds a game. Where does that put them just with him doing that?
That puts him in the top 2, at least.
Now, am I gassing it up or am I being logical? Because look what he's doing right now as a freshman.
And think about Justin coming back.
Thank you. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, crazy.
Now, here's the second point. They got 2 point guards that are crazy good right now. Got the Malik kid. I don't know if he's a freshman or sophomore. Marcus Jackson, another kid. What he does offensively, but what he does defensively is very important. He's making the other point guard work. As soon as that ball comes off the rim, he's the first person usually to the ball at 6'1", 6'2". He's trying to out-jump Jonathan Beagle to grab a rebound. So again, with him, he hits the weight room in the summer, get a little stronger. Just them two coming back in better shape, taking the next step up in their careers as young freshmen, as the coach said in that postgame when they won, I foresee them winning championships within this 4 year. And I truly believe it. If they stay out, I'm going to keep knocking on wood. They stay healthy. Boy, I'm excited for this team next year. Shout out to the student athletes from Albany men's team. Shout out to the coaching staff. Shout out to head coach Killings, man.
Yeah.
Stay the course. Keep the faith and weather the storm. Adversity builds character. And you're going to do great things, man. Anything else on this?
No. I just, like I said, I think with the whole thing with, you know, like I said, Will Brown was there for like 19 years. And people are forgetting that. They want Killings to come in here and just switch everything in one day, and that ain't going to happen. You know, I was pumped. I thought Killings had the ability, to be honest with you. I thought he was, by this year, he probably was going to get them deep into the American East tournament.
They got the injury
and
bug.
The injury bug hit me. That's how great of a coach I think Killings is. So,
shout out to head coach Killings. Shout out to all the student athletes on both the men's and women's team. Keep doing your thing.
Facts.
Want to travel over to NFL land?
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay, man. We got a lot of NFL topics for you football lovers, man.
So you want to start? Because I want to start somewhere.
Okay, before you start, okay. He has a lot he wants to stay with football, rightfully so. He's the football person.
Okay.
But everybody knows I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And just real quick off the rip, shout out to Coach Mike Tomlin. Does it every year.
Preach.
It looks like when the season starts for the last couple of years, oh boy, here we go. Get Mike Tomlin out of here. I read all the Facebook group pages and all the Twitter pages, and he's overrated. And then what happens? You go from 2-6 to finishing in 9-8.
Facts.
With a rookie quarterback.
Yep.
That didn't start because you had Mike Trubisky in for like the first 4 to 5 weeks.
Yep.
And finished 9-8. So to conclude this season, I know we missed the playoffs, but as a Steelers fan, man, come on. If you don't see the promise, go ahead.
Reiterate that, you being nice. You missed the playoffs at the last game of the season.
By the last game of the season.
So let's just be honest. They missed the playoffs the last game of the season. I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. I wish that was my rebuild year.
And that's what you told me on the phone.
Yeah.
You said to Sean, I don't think you understand. You did this in a rebuild. Rebuild with a rookie quarterback. You're 9-8 and you barely missed the playoffs.
And another side note, in a conference where Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson are in. Just want to put that else out there. But hey, you know.
So I'm so happy as a Steelers fan. Shout out to, you know, the rookie QB. He showed a lot of growth. Shout out to Najee. This is his second season rushing for 1,000 yards. He's going to be powerful. They just need to build a line and protect them young players. And next season, let's take it up, 10, 11 wins.
Facts.
I'm being conservative. I'm not saying we're going to go to the championship, but let's just keep moving forward, man.
Right.
So now I'm going to throw it back to you.
Okay.
What's the first topic you want to fire off?
Well, the first topic I want to talk about is the Houston Texans. So they recently
brother.
I'm gonna get it in. So they recently just fired the coach Lovie Smith, and I see people talking about it now. To our credit, we were talking about this weeks ago.
Got the podcast clips to prove it.
Yeah. We gonna work on that because now it's a new year. You haven't even released clips yet. Wait till you start taking those little clips and boom, 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 boom. Right. So let's go here. So Lovie Smith. He gets fired for, I guess, what is it, 2 or 3-13-1 record? I don't know. I forgot the record. Who cares? The point of the matter is that what people are not looking at, and then they said, well, he won the game against the Colts. So now the Texans don't have the number 1 draft pick. So, and if y'all wanted to lose, then y'all should have went and got rid of him and did. Lovie Smith ain't gonna do that. You gave him a no-win opportunity. First of all, let's call the Houston Texans what they are. There's a race problem going on with them. Nobody don't want to talk about that.
Sir, can we scratch it, rewind, say it again?
There's a race problem going on with the Texans. And it's with other teams too, but we ain't talking about them. We're going to talk about the Texans right now. So, number 1, Deshaun Watson wanted out of there. And somehow something leaked out where he had a problem with massage therapy people and all that. That was crazy. Then you turn around. Okay, and before that, with Romeo Crennel, who also was a black coach, you asked him to step aside so that they could put Vrabel up in the front, so that he could see if he can be a coach and have a coaching audition for teams that were interested in making him a head coach. That's the Tennessee Titans coach. This is what the Texans did. Then they had a GM who is no longer there. What he wanted to do was bring in Josh McCown, who is a great knowledge of football and blah, 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 blah. Well, then he can go work for ESPN because as long as I've watched football, Josh McCown ain't never won nothing. He's just some bum that kept getting money, playing a backup role, and I think he was the quarterback with the Jets when Todd Bowles was there, and that ain't work out great either. So I don't know why this guy was such a great head coach that they were itching to get him to be a head coach. It got blown up so bad they didn't want to do it. So they pushed him aside and said, yo, we're going to let David Culley work with him. So David Culley has to work with Davis Mills. That didn't work out neither, and they went 4-12. Now this year, and they got rid of David Culley. I think what they were going to do was initially go get Josh McCown, but people were still igging about it. Like with the whole Deshaun Watson thing, that's what made it bad. Watson's whole situation they didn't need the heat right now. So then they bring in Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith, who was the defensive coordinator, and Pep Hamilton was the offensive coordinator. And you asked him to say, we're going to give David, and this is their comments, we're going to give Davis Mills a chance to show us if he's the guy. Now, we already know he ain't the guy, man. You already know that. You really going to sit up here and tell me he's the guy?
Come on, Azar.
Come on, man.
We can't give him one chance.
No, never. That's like Nathan Peterman. He keeps getting opportunities. Why is he even in the NFL? The dude sucks. He's horrible. I don't care. I'm just going to say it. It's what it is. Nobody will say, we don't work for ESPN. We don't have to kiss they behind. He sucks. David Mills is not taking you to the promised land. You didn't want to do no addition. It was the plan all along. The plan all along is what they do. They get a black coach in there. They tell him to work with the scraps that they gave him, which is David Mills. And they said, yo, make this work. And how did it work? It didn't work. So are you shocked that they're 3-13 and nobody's showing up to the game? Mind you, you had the Deshaun Watson scandal. And then you try to bring it in with Josh McCown. Brandon Cooks wants out of here, the star receiver. I'm sorry. So now you get rid of him. You got a top pick. Let me guess what's going to happen. Maybe we should wait to play this clip when the NFL season starts. Because guess what's going to happen? They're going to hire a coach with so much experience and so much knowledge. And oh my God, he's going to work with this new kid coming in. And we can't wait to see what he does. But ain't nobody else going to get that. Pep Hamilton's not going to get that opportunity. Nope. Eric Bieniemy's not going to get that opportunity. Nope. DeMarco Ryans is not going to get that opportunity. Any black coach that has any offensive experience is not going to get that opportunity. But they're going to give it to somebody else that don't look like us to give them that opportunity. And they're going to give them a 4 or 5 year plan. They ain't going to do what they did to Lovie Smith. They're going to say, let's see what you can do with David Mills. And we'll see what we can do. And then we can see where we can go from there. No, you didn't. That was the plan all along. So mark my words. This is what's going to happen. And you can play this when it happens. They're going to get a coach. They're going to give him a 4 or 5 year deal. They're going to draft a quarterback and they're going to build that team. And whoever they get the coach, it ain't going to look like us. I guarantee it. Positively 1,000%. The Texans have a problem, and they have a problem, and it's clear and it's evident, and I don't want to hear anything else about it. That's just what's going to happen. I can assure you Bill O'Brien wasn't going to have to go through this. It's just what it is, man. So nobody's calling it out, so we going to call it out. It is what it is.
Preach.
And the thing with Tomlin, you see what the Steelers did? They done stuck with him all these years. Unlike other franchises, they would have got him and bailed him out and left him there. The Steelers are always in competition and in contention every year. Every year they got a shot. The Texans, who think they know everything, is about to go get Josh McCown. Good luck with that. I saw him on the field. Good luck with that. He has football knowledge. There's a lot of guys that have football knowledge. There's a lot of guys that can read defenses. The only experience that guy has is coaching, I think, his kid's football team. Really? Really? That's who you gonna go get? Don't get me started on Jeff Saturday.
Don't we have the same issue with black quarterbacks where they don't give them dominant weapons?
Well, see, now and that's another thing. They don't give them dominant weapons, but they kind of draft them a little bit more because they're starting to see that ain't gonna work. They're like, you just gonna have to do it. So the Texans have done what they needed to do. They've shown who they are, and trust me, we believe you. It ain't just a Watson thing that was the mess in there. The mess that was in there was the not just the Watson thing. It's your behavior. It's the way you treat black coaches. You fired 2 black coaches in 2 years, dog. Really? Really? And it's say what? David Culley handled it well. He cleaned up the mess. And then Lovie Smith came in there and had to deal with the mess he's dealing with. And ain't nobody saying nothing about it. Brandon Cooks wants out. The only thing you got left right now is Damon Pierce. And let me tell you something, Davis Mills, who gonna pick him up? I want to see what big deal David Mills gonna get.
What did Keith Sweat say?
What?
Nobody.
Facts. David Mills ain't going nowhere. Matter of fact, you can let him go. Ain't nobody gonna pick him up. Nobody's gonna pick him up. I forgot who the backup was. They tried him too. That's how bad it was. My God, man. Really? And nobody's saying nothing. They getting real quiet over there.
Not your boy Stephen A.
Oh, not that Cancun dude. Yeah, that's what I'm going to use. That the Jingo character. I'm sorry. I've been missing words. It's been a few weeks. That the Jingo character. Cold. Yeah. No, that a.k.a. the Jingo character. On Code, a.k.a. the Jingo character. He said what he said, but I don't care. It's too late for him. I ain't letting that Jerry Jones thing go with him. Super clown. He's just bad. So did you want to ask me about the Texans, about that?
I don't see where we already have a problem in the NFL, and we talked about this on all levels. With ownership, with coaches, with quarterbacks, with media. And we saw the Jerry Jones that we talked about. How do they fix this?
There's nothing. You know what? You know how you can fix it? Maybe get down there. Maybe the owners need to just say, we need to get a few minority owners and let them have a few teams and just have their own independent conference and they can compete with the teams. Like we can't just keep doing this. This is ridiculous. We know Jerry Jones ain't gonna never have no black coach. We know that. But let's go here on a bigger level as we're talking right now. It's starting to rage into me. I want you to look at the AFC South's owners. The Jacksonville Jaguars, every team has a bad, very horrible race relations problem. Let me tell you why.
Break it down.
With the exception of the Steelers. In that conference,
don't put us in there.
In the AFC South Conference, the Houston Texans. Now we just talked about what they just pulled. The Indianapolis Colts hired Jeff Saturday. They brought in Frank Reich, which I kind of got because he came off that Super Bowl winning season with the Eagles. But then they brought in Jeff Saturday because it wasn't working. That's who you give the opportunity to. That dude was just on ESPN analyzing football. He ain't never coached a day in his life. So you got Jeff Saturday. Now Jacksonville, before they went and got Dougie Peterson to go fix that whole Trevor Lawrence thing, he went out and hired Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was better than Eric Bieniemy and Pep Hamilton and DeMarco Ryans? Really? And then let me go with Tennessee. Well, Tennessee doesn't. Let me retract. Tennessee don't really. They're not going to catch the L from it. I mean, we know they wanted Vrabel because of what happened, but he got a coaching audition because Houston gave them a coaching audition because they asked Romeo Crennel to take a back seat. So I don't understand. These teams are bad, but it's just like so blatant. Lovie Smith got fired. I didn't think he was going to make it. I'm shocked they kept him. It was the plan. We're gonna put the failure on him and Culley, and then when we were ready to get our top pick and rebuild, we're gonna go get the great white hype and keep it moving. If the players would start boycotting, I can assure you this would stop. If you bring that guy in here, I ain't playing. I don't care what money you cut me. You can stop paying me because I already got enough money. I don't care. I'm not playing for this dude, man. I don't want to play for him. You know that guy ain't qualified. You think Josh McCown going to come in the room and get the respect for the players? Let me ask you something. You already see what's happening with Cliff Kingsbury, right? Mm-hmm. You see what Kyler Murray did to him?
Yep.
You think Josh McCown going to come in there and act up like and going to calm down on whatchamacallit? You think he's going to calm him down? No. So what you think going to happen in Houston? Yeah, they got to get him with a young kid because a young kid that's trying to get stagnant in the NFL. But if it's a veteran or a real quarterback or even older guys that's got a house and a mortgage, they ain't going to listen to him, man. I know who you is, man. I ain't listening to you. You couldn't tell me nothing. I don't even think you've been on a winning team. Why are you here? Why are you even talking to me?
So I'm going to pull this situation in with another situation.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're going to put a pin in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
The second situation is with the young brother from the Buffalo Bills that went down and went into cardiac arrest.
Yeah, shouts out to him. Darvin Ham.
Darvin Ham.
Yeah. He's doing better now.
He pulled through. He's doing better. And hopefully he gets back on the field in the future when he's healthy. Mm-hmm. What was brought to my attention is because he was only a second-year player, he's not vested in the NFL's pension. So if something happens where he can't get on the field, he's pretty much done.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that situation, speaking of the race relations situation in the NFL, well, it's right around the corner in 2 years.
The labor agreement.
The labor agreement, which we said with basketball, now we're saying with football.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think needs to happen for this labor agreement to be in favor of the players with everything that we talked about? From Daniel Snyder, from Jerry Jones, from this guy, from the incident we seen with the kid from Buffalo. There's so many examples right now in our face with owners and everything happening. What needs to happen?
Guaranteed money will change the whole world. If they get those contracts guaranteed, a lot of things will stop. So I don't think that the players just got to stand strong. Shannon Sharp alluded to it. He said, yo, we done been through this a million times. He said, we all get ready to go on strike. We all ready to do what we do. And all of a sudden,
the line falls.
Somebody goes over it.
Somebody sell them out.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, they need to get the guaranteed money. The next time the labor agreement comes, stand strong. Just hold your money. If what it do, I think it's DeMaurice Smith. whatever his name is, the dude that Gruden offended. If he doesn't stand strong this time, they're doomed. They're doomed. They're doomed. Let this be that. I hope somebody in our podcast listens and plays this out. Stand strong. I don't even care if the Morris Smith or whatever his name is tells you like, this is what we're going to agree to. No, we're not agreeing to nothing. This is what we want, and they're going to give it up, or we're going to strike. What you think is going to hurt more? The players and the owners. If you stand strong and say, yo, we ain't doing this, and we're not going to collect the checks, right? It's going to hurt them in the long run. Because trust me, they got millions and billions of dollars locked up into their teams.
Ticket sales, merchandise, advertisement, TV deals, you name it.
No, I put my life on the line out there all the time.
And we see how quickly, with respect to that young kid from Buffalo, what's his name again?
Darvin
Hammond. My apologies. We see how quickly things could change with one hit.
Yeah.
Not vested in an NFL pension. They put his salary out there. It was a little over 6 figures. That kid's putting his body on the line, and so are other players. They're all putting their bodies on the line. And one hit that quick, your NFL career could be over, and you and your family will have to figure it out.
Yeah.
No pension to take care of you. They might be nice and cover your medical bills, but technically they don't have to.
Yeah.
You rack up $500,000 in medical bills, what do?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Just like with the NBA, we're not going to talk about the NBA CBA right now, but you definitely have to strike, hold, something has to happen. If there's not guaranteed contracts in this next labor agreement, I don't know what to tell you players, you young players.
Yeah.
The old players got their money.
Yeah.
You know, the people that got their 3 and 4 year contracts, 40 million, 30 million guaranteed dollars, blase, they got their money. You young players who are not vested or maybe 2-year deals making 200,000, you're one hit away from your NFL career being over. You have to stand on something. If you guys let this labor agreement go by, can't cry no more.
Yeah. Facts. It's just ridiculous. Like it's a bad issue, man. They're not doing something about it. You're not doing nothing about it. So you know what you got to do. But that Texans thing is bothering me. They've been doing. We all saw that coming. And they say, well, why did Lovie Smith even take the job knowing he knew what he saw what they was doing to Cully? He had no choice. Where else was he gonna go?
Who's gonna give him a spot?
Sean Payton left the Saints, and he's been talked about since the day he walked out the door from New Orleans. That's an option he has. Same thing with Sean McVay. You know, Pep Hamilton don't got that choice. He got stuck with Davis Mills. That's who he had to develop. David Mills. Really? Let's see where Davis Mills is at next year. That's what I want to see. Let's see if he's even a number 2 quarterback anywhere on a team. Hey, maybe that's me.
Nah, I agree. So what's the next NFL topic you want to run through?
So today,
you was fired up, man.
Today, the Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr had announced that he was not going to be with Raider any longer. I don't know how to feel about that. I will say this with Davis, the Raiders have had a long line of history, but let me make this clear. And we talked about this with the Patriot way. The Raiders, you know, they decided to move on from Derek Carr. Now they brought Josh. Oh God, what is the coach name? I forgot his name. Josh McDaniels.
Okay.
They brought Josh McDaniels in from the Patriots, right? He did an excellent job with Tom Brady, and it seemed like he was developing Mac and cheese. I'm just gonna say that. So you know the quarterback for Patriots fans, they know what I'm talking about. The thing is with that, I don't know if he was the right guy for this team. Okay, and let me make this clear: the Raiders last year went to the playoffs through all their mess with Gruden's BS that they had to play through. The wide receiver, you know, that got in that car accident, killing somebody in a drunk driving accident. They had a new coach. They had to play through all that. Then they come in this year and Josh McDaniels comes in. I'm pretty sure he brought his Patriot way mess in there. And it didn't work out. Even with Devontae Adams. So then they said, well, we're going to leave him. We're going to have him step away from the team for the last 2 weeks of the season. We're going to see what we got with Jarrett Stidham. You already know what you got with Jarrett Stidham. He's been in New England years. You already know what you got. So I don't, and I think he was being talked about as an option when Cam Newton was there, and he couldn't beat out Cam Newton that was supposedly over the hill. I don't know. I don't understand what they're doing. So you went out and got Devontae Adams.
Me neither.
You went out and got Chandler Jones to combat with Zach Crosby, the sack leader. I don't know where you're gonna go from this. What are you gonna bring in there?
What did we talk about the very first podcast before the NFL season when we all went through our teams?
Mm-hmm.
There was a person in here that was a Raiders fan. You were Atlanta Falcon. Well, what did we talk about during that time?
The quarterbacks, yeah.
What the Raiders?
Yeah, and Derek Carr. Derek Carr has never, and let me tell you something, ever since Derek Carr's gotten there, it seems like they've always keep trying to replace him. Other than when Del Rio was there, I don't think Del Rio was trying that. But ever since Del Rio walked out that door, they bring in Gruden. Gruden wasn't really too fond of him. He was trying to replace him. And then then there was the other coach where he was riding with him. He got them to the playoffs. But I think he was all in. Then you bring in Josh McDaniels. Why when you go in there with Derek Carr, does Derek Carr really have to prove anything to you? Mind you, you got a 30-second ranked defense right now. There's 32 teams in the league, and you're in last place. Maybe that's who you should be attacking as opposed to Derek Carr. Let me say this, and this is just where my mind is going. So Patrick Mahomes ain't going nowhere. Justin Herbert, even though they got in the playoffs, and it wasn't very decisive, but I think it was because of injuries. I mean, Mike Williams, that was a big loss for a while. But Justin Herbert ain't going nowhere. Depending on from what I saw when Nathaniel Hackett left Denver for Russell Wilson, well, we'll talk about that another day. Russell Wilson.
Shout out to Russell Wilson. So man, he going through it.
No, but when he left, it seemed like Wilson was playing better. So Russell Wilson ain't going nowhere for at least 1 or 2 more years. You let Derek Carr walk out the door. What you think you gonna go get for him? Because if I'm the GM or I'm the owner, the one thing I'm asking the GM and the coach is, I know we're not doing no rebuilding. Because I paid money to bring Chandler Jones in here, and I paid money to bring in here Devontae Adams. You need to explain to me what we rebuilding to do. Because meanwhile, while Mahomes and them is dominating, and Justin Herbert's dominating, and that's just in your division. Let's not even talk about the conference where you got Josh Allen, you got Deshaun Watson, you got Lamar Jackson, you got Joe Burrow, you got Patrick Mahomes. At what point? What are you
throw a name out there?
Yeah,
he's on a 1-year deal, and he's doing way better than Russell Wilson in Seattle. Geno Smith.
Geno Smith.
Where does he go after this year?
That's a good question. So, yeah,
if you're the Raiders, you see what he's doing in Seattle. Mm-hmm. Do you go out and get a Geno Smith? Give me your opinion on that. He's a veteran quarterback, and he's proven himself right now.
Maybe.
You gonna do that to him?
No. I think
gonna do that to Geno?
They wrote him off. Carr.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
They didn't though. So wouldn't you rather, instead of going into rebuild mode like you just said?
Yes.
Wouldn't you rather
when you put it that way? Yes.
Geno Smith over there, who's a veteran quarterback who's showing you now, because as he said, people wrote him off. He ain't right back. People wrote him off. Let's be honest about it. Yeah. He goes over there. He's doing his thing. Seattle's in the playoffs.
Yeah, they are. They play San Francisco tomorrow.
What happens?
Saturday.
What happens if he wins a round or two? If I'm the Raiders, I'm salivating at getting a player like that, then totally rebuilding.
Yeah.
That's just my humble opinion.
Because I don't think Jason Stidham's going to do it. I just don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's the guy.
Raiders, if anybody ever listens to this, go check out Geno Smith. He's only on a 1-year deal.
I don't understand. I think with Derek Carr, and I know he's had some bad games. I just want to understand how your 32nd ranked defense. Patrick Mahomes ain't working on a 32nd defense.
Geno Smith ain't gonna help that.
They ain't gonna help that. And you brought in Chandler Jones, but I think on the back end, I don't watch a lot of the Raiders games, but it's bad. It's really bad. Wait, so I don't understand. The defense is ranked 32nd, and you go and take the quarterback down because of him? Really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. You got any more else on the Raiders?
No, I think the buffoonery moves that they're starting to make, and let me say this. They were making buffoonery moves when they didn't want to fire Gruden after those emails leaked. But they were kind of salvaging themselves because of the GM and the coach that stayed around. Then Davis got rid of them because I don't know what his purpose was in that. And now all of a sudden Derek Carr ain't the guy. I hope you find a guy. Hope you do.
Geno Smith.
Because I remember the Raiders before Derek Carr.
Geno Smith.
Yeah. We'll see.
Geno Smith.
We'll see. We'll see.
What else we got for the NFL?
I'm gonna leave that Falcons thing alone. I think we're gonna touch on all 32 teams later on down the line when the Super Bowl is over. Talk about what every team needs to do. But I think as of right now, let me go into the Tua thing. That's the last thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
So Tua for the Miami Dolphins, he's had his third concussion. And, I heard Brandon Marshall say on the sports, I forgot which sports night, it was on Showtime. I think it's NFL something. And he was saying how, Tua needs to sit his behind down. And I agreed. But he needs to sit his behind down now. He needed to sit down when he was stumbling in Buffalo.
Mm.
When Buffalo came down there and then he went back into the game, he was done. They put him back out there, and then he had another concussion. His hands gripped up. And then they put him out there again. He should have been done.
That's the negligence on that. Going on the negligence.
So what was bothering me about it, the first time when he was in Miami and they were playing Buffalo and he stumbled, right? They played 3 days later. It wasn't like they were playing a week later. He had no business being on that field. And Mike McDaniels, with his clown behind, sits up there and is like, yeah, I don't know why people are questioning, do I love the players? I would never put a player. Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
Just did.
But you just did it. So you going to sit up there on a podium and start lying? And Tua, I don't know. I can't imagine his family's okay with this. So I just know as a father, it might have been time to send something to somebody, to send a message like, we ain't dealing with this. Like, hear what I'm saying.
Can I interject?
Because I know I'm saying something maybe that ain't the positive thing.
No, you're on the right.
I just know if that's my son, you ain't gonna make it. My son better never be seen on that field like that. Period.
That's where I was just about to touch. Because as fathers, we both have sons.
Yeah.
And I'm very hesitant to even have my young 7-year-old get into any football because how I see high school coaches, college coaches, and NFL coaches treating players like they're expendable when we're talking about their lives. Now, we just talked about the kid from Buffalo, Hammond. You just said he had 3 concussions in 1 year. He's only 24 years old. It's not like he's on his way out the league at 36, 37. Yeah. He's 24. We have the freaking information on CTE. You don't think that's going to harm him in the future?
Yes.
He might have CTE right now.
Yeah. Any
more concussions, his whole forget 5-10 years down the line, his career can be over at 25.
You know what?
Go ahead.
No, I 1,000% agree. I'm glad you said what you said. This is what I think should happen. I'm going so many places, so many layers. This first layer is Stephen Ross should have his team taken away for everything that Brian Flores called out about that. And not only that, because now we're seeing what he's doing with Tua. And now we know that based off of what I'm seeing, there's a lot of truth to what Brian Flores has said. And oh, by the way, they had the same record last year when Flores was there. So Mike McDaniels didn't really do anything special, right? So we all know Mike McDaniels doesn't care about his players. He's a coward. He's a clown. I just know if that was my son, I don't think your family would be safe. Let me make that clear. That's about the most professional way I can say that. If you put my son out there, my son right now, he doesn't play professional football. Like, he's not old enough to do that, right? I can assure you, if I saw that Sunday with him stumbling, he went back out in that game, I'm probably at your door waiting for you. You're not going to get in your house. And I can assure you, if you do get in your house, he better not be in that field come Thursday, or you're not going to make it home, because you put my son's life on the line. This is the message that needs to be sent when I'm seeing and hearing, because everybody wants to talk professional. Because I heard Michael Irvin, who's another Django character, sit there and say, well, nobody made Tua go. We know that, Mike, but we also know that he shouldn't have been back on that field come that Sunday.
We also know what
I'm
going to pronounce his word right, coercion is.
Yeah.
Because we talk about it in other aspects, but with football players, what did we just finish talking about with the collective bargaining agreement? I'm just going to go off the top. Is his contract guaranteed? What does his contract look like?
I don't know. I don't think it's.
So yeah. I'm not bringing that up to say, one way or another, but when you're young, you're 24, you're trying to get that next big bag. What's going through your head?
Yeah. I risk it all.
As a coach, you got to protect your player from himself. Look, you might want to fight me in the locker room. You might curse me out, but you're going to sit your ass on his bench.
Yeah. There's no way he went back on that game.
Because if you go out there and die, I got to hear it. I got to hear it on my conscience because I know that's wrong. I got to hear it from the team. I got to hear it from the media. I got to hear it from the fans. And then after all that, I got to hear it from your family.
Yeah.
And you might have a wild boy in your family that's going to go upside my head.
Facts.
So in saying that, we're right back at square one. Y'all better get busy this collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
Y'all better not let them infiltrate that wall.
Yep.
Y'all better not let one cross over to their side.
Yep.
Because it's to a situation with how they're handling it. Y'all young college players, what do y'all think is gonna happen to you?
Facts.
You get an owner like that doesn't have enough brains to say, yo, I got a CPAP. I don't care if you say you want to get on that field. Matter of fact, I'm glad we're talking about this. Who do what coach did we start off with? Who's a Steelers fan? We started off with Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin.
They had him on a podcast with Ryan Clark. He had the same situation with Ryan Clark. He said there was a game, Denver, where he had a concussion. He said, I loved him like a son. I had to tell him, look, you're not going out there. You're not going out there. And Ryan Clark thanked him later in life because if you go out there and you get injured bad, hold on. If Ryan Clark would have went out there and got injured bad, he would have had that on his conscience. And then what we've been talking about with Mike Tomlin, how bad of a coach he is. Look what he did to Ryan Clark's career, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So why isn't this coach from Miami getting the same heat?
Facts.
Why does he still have a team?
Yeah.
That kid is 24. Took 3 concussions in a year.
And you destroyed this kid's life. Because
he can be dealing with CTE right now and we're not going to know about it. Because
had they sat him down in that game, gave him maybe like 2 weeks, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation. And he'd probably still be playing. But because of what y'all did to him, and let me make this clear, Tua knew there was pressure. He knew the owner didn't want him.
This is what I said with coercion.
He knew.
Your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
The owner don't want you.
Yeah.
You have a financial situation. You're trying to lobby for your next big contract.
Right.
What are you supposed to do?
Facts.
What do you think? Because as we said, multiple things should happen. What would you like to see happen?
As far as with Ross, he needs to be a hefty fine, and he needs to not his team. He needs to have his team taken away. If you're putting players on the field, knowing what we know about CTE now, you need to go. You gotta go. You got to go. We all saw what they did. They did it with every purpose. McDaniels can never coach again. He has to at least sit out for 5 to 6 years. You can't even interview for a head coaching position, and it's got to be a coordinator position. Till we see, you're gonna have to work your way back up. It needs to be intent. I mean, the kid could have died because y'all running for the playoff hunt. Really? Like, it wouldn't have hurt to put Teddy Bridgewater out there that day on Thursday night. Guess that didn't register in your mind. Nope. I mean, you're paying this kid, you might as well use him. That's what he's there for. So, I don't know, man.
Got anything else to add on this topic?
No, we know what type of demons they are. There's two places I'll never step foot in. Three NFL cities I'll never step foot in, arenas, until their ownership changed. The Houston Texans, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Miami Dolphins. I don't want to have anything to ever do with their arenas. Nothing. The Super Bowl's played it, that's one thing. Well, no, except in Dallas because Jerry Jones owns that. But unless the Super Bowl's played there because they don't get any compensation off of that. But the teams are playing there. No, I don't have nothing to do with that. Y'all scumbags, and y'all know it. Y'all scumbags.
Want to go to MMA land for a few minutes? So, if you're into sports, you had to see the news that broke with Dana White and his wife. Is his wife Dana? I forget his wife's names.
Yeah.
But basically, altercation happened where she slapped him and he power handed her
right back
and smacked her. Enveonline does not support any form of domestic violence. What I brought this up for is I want to talk about the media aspect of the situation and the coverage, because we've seen situations like this arise with certain players of certain ethnicities in other sports. Now, let me clarify my statement before somebody tries to take a bit and piece off this and use my words against me. Again, Enveonline does not support domestic violence, nor are we trying to say we want one group to be treated and overlooked for domestic violence because Dana White did.
Right.
So you can miss me with that. With the media coverage, I kind of feel like it's getting swept under the rug. A owner of a sport got caught backhanding his wife.
Yeah.
We've seen NFL players and basketball players lose their career over that.
Facts.
And then the media backlash. You know, the usual suspects, the Stephen A. Smiths and others get on their platforms to condemn. Rightfully so, because I don't support domestic violence. Rightfully so. What did we see with Dana White?
They seem like they were very understanding. And that's the word I'm going to use. They seemed like they were, because I saw he had a show today, and he was talking about it, Stephen A. Smith, and he's like, no man should put his hands on a woman, and Molly was like, who's the biggest man? Trust me, I'm gonna bring her up in a minute because I got words for her. She was like, there needs to be stricter penalties. She said, I looked it up and there's no strict penalties. Like, there's not a policy in place. Like, if you get a domestic violence situation from MMA, there's no policy in place where they say they got to suspend you or fine you or whatever.
Okay, but we've seen media pressure. We've seen media pressure go after advertisers. Meaning, hey, if you're going to let this guy work for your basketball club, we're going to boycott your advertisers.
This is the thing, though, and I know this isn't going to come out right. He's the owner of the company. What are you going to tell him?
So was Vince McMahon.
We can't tell him nothing.
So was Vince McMahon.
But if he goes away, okay. So let me ask you something. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate. If he goes away, then what happens to the MMA thing?
You have shareholders of companies. So shout out to our engineer Tyler, very great engineer, one of the best in Albany, New York.
Super facts.
He just put me onto the Vince McMahon situation for the WWE. And I wasn't familiar with this because I haven't watched the WWE in a very long time.
Me either. Yeah.
But Tyler, our engineer, filled this in on about Vince McMahon retiring for his allegations. I had no idea.
I heard something about that, but I didn't know the details of it.
Basically, he retired because he had so many allegations of sexual misconduct, rightfully so. When you have a multi-million-dollar company with advertisers, we know about LLC formation, there has to be some type of shareholders. Like, just because you're the owner of a business, for example, right now, me and you own Enveonline, but when we get to multi-millionaire status, there might be certain other positions and ownership behind the scenes. So if something happens to me, somebody else could step in so the company just doesn't disband. There's no way that Dana White is the sole owner and there's nobody behind him. So that's what I'm putting out there.
Right.
That's just my perspective. Go ahead.
No, I just think that, because I think the way it's being looked at is like, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to step away?
We seen situations
Yeah.
with people who do not look like Dana White.
Yes.
I'll say it, who are black.
Yes. Agreed.
When the media gets on their behind, they say, okay, well, let's look at the rule book. We don't like, he's only going to get a 4-game suspension, or they're only going to fine him.
Watson. Yeah.
Or they're only going to fine him $1 million. Let's go after the advertisement, because we know the advertisement is going to affect the money of the team, and then that's going to put pressure on the team.
Right.
Go after the advertisement of the MMA and watch what happens overnight. Watch what happens overnight. They're already, people swear they put up numbers, but according to my research, he ain't playing his play. He's not paying his fighters like that. People blew that up on what's that dude named Logan Paul, John Paul, the Paul dude, the YouTuber.
Yeah.
He calls out Dana White every chance he get. Like, you ain't even paying your fighters like that.
Really?
Yeah, they get paid, but not like that.
Damn.
Freaking Paul, the Paul dude, the YouTube boxer, is getting more with his exhibitions than the fighters are. And he's a YouTube exhibition fighter. But because he has the business side correct, he's out selling pay-per-views than this dude. So again, you want to hurt him and send a message, send it through his pockets.
Yeah.
You have no problem doing that to players when you want to condemn them. That's just my 2 cents on the situation.
Let me say on a bigger level too, and I'm not switching subjects. There was something that was bothering me, and yes, I'm going there. So Molly Querim, she gets on ESPN today, and she's talking about, because I think they caught a lot of heat because they weren't going at him like the rest of the players that they go after, right? She said something like, he needs to, because ESPN has been kind of mute. Like, I guess the other people
been very quiet.
They have no comment right now. So I think they're just trying.
Nobody has a comment
because they're just waiting for the reaction. They're waiting to see the reaction, right? Which is yeah, I'm with you on this. So she says, well, it's kind of a privilege to own a business. What?
See, I was just about to take a chip.
It's kind of a privilege to own a business.
That's the response she gave.
Do you know what it takes? It was so offensive. I don't know why it was egging me when she said it, but it was so offensive to hear that. Do you know what it takes to start a company? It is not a privilege to own a business. It's a privilege, especially for black men, for people of color. That was the most ignorant comment you could have ever made. Ain't no privilege, man. It's a privilege. It's a right, because it's a grind. What it takes for us to get here is a grind. Don't you dare ever say it's a privilege, because you get your little narrow behind up on ESPN all day and just go back and forth and give your opinion, and all you seem to do is hate on men. Like, we're not even gonna get with that. But to say that it was the most ignorant, naive, stupid remark she could have ever made, and why is this?
What was the context?
It was. She was saying, like, because of Dana White, because she's looking at it like they're waiting to see what ESPN and his other shareholders do.
So the context was it's a privilege to own a business. So that's why we're not going as hard on him.
No, it's a privilege to own a business. So like he should step away from the company. And then she said it's a privilege to own a business. So meaning like, it's a privilege to be where he's at. Yeah, it is. But don't you dare say it's a privilege to be an owner. Me as a black man, I can't. After everything that people of color have been through, to every time we get in a very prominent business ownership, we're always getting attacked from every angle. Don't you dare ever say it's a privilege.
Okay, so let me just parse this and break it down. What you're saying is, as black owners of any business, whether it's media, whether it's sports, whatever, we don't get that same luxury.
No, we don't get no privilege. Ain't no privilege. We are fighting against everybody. So don't say it was just offensive. And there's other words I want to use, but I don't want to sound offensive. Like there's a word for it, but I don't want to sound like I'm going to, like I'm being a big bad wolf. You make comments sometimes you shouldn't be making. And let me also make this clear. I will never say things and put things out. Me and you have seen things that we have never let out. Them same cats you rapping them songs to, they've been in those situations, homie. And I guarantee you ain't gonna never say that to their face. That's all I'm gonna do is leave it right there. I'm gonna say that one more time so everybody catch what I'm saying.
Meek Mills.
When you talking about domestic violence and all that and men and what they should be doing and how they should be, them same cats you rapping them songs to that you be rapping to, they been in those situations and you ain't gonna never say it to them. And let me say on a bigger level, because of businesses, sponsorships, and people don't want to say the truth. I'm with you. I don't condone it. I've seen it, and I kind of stay out of it. You know what I mean? Like I stay away from it. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to be near it because it's a touchy subject. You don't want to get involved. I will say this. I don't think everybody's being honest that's on air. Everybody that's on air is not being honest about how they feel. They're just saying what people want them to say. That's cutting the checks. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Let's leave that there. Mm-hmm. It was just interesting, like I said, you know, not just with this situation, but with a lot of situations.
Because anytime something like that pops off, they was like, oh, you know, it's and I get it, you know, they friends with them, so it's hard to get at them. But you ain't got no problem getting at the rest of them, and they all look like us.
Yeah, and these people that you say are your friends behind closed doors. This is why AI felt some type of way all them years. Mm-hmm. You was a beat writer in Philly to start your career off and yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, you don't have no problem getting at these athletes that you so-called built a relationship with from your mouth. Mm-hmm. And people had to check them, you know. But I'm just going to sit back and see the media backlash from this, just like I'm going to sit back and see from that other situation, which I'm going to leave alone because I'm going to let that play out.
And you see how I guess you know what Stephen A. and Molly said today. We're the only ones really covering this.
Why? That should be a dog whistle. You influence. You have a powerful voice. You get on SportsCenter. Y'all usually make tweets and people jump on them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that what you want to pat on the back because you and Molly the first one speaking out. Why ain't you pushing the issue like you pushed other issues? Yeah.
You mean like how Stephen A. and them got quiet about Jerry? You know, Molly never said anything about that Jerry Jones thing. She ain't really had nothing to say about that.
They didn't have a dissertation.
No, she didn't want to say nothing about that.
Interesting.
And let me go here with this. This. I've never met her. I don't know her from a hole in the wall. When Jerry Jones looked like he was stopping them young black boys from coming into school to educate themselves and better themselves, you kept quiet like a mouse. So just to keep going on about this, it's like it's a double sword. Mm-hmm. It's a double sword, and it's okay. It's okay. They keep doing what they're doing. Let me tell you something. What I've seen, it comes down. You'll catch your karma for what you're doing. That's probably why I could throw a personal shot. Let me just say this. That's why you're only one now. You were rocking with two. It was you and somebody else, but they ain't over there no more.
Yeah, well, let's mind our business on that one.
I don't got to mind my business. I see it every day on TV. I saw a ring and I ain't see it no more. So I'm just acknowledging and analyzing what I saw. Go ahead.
So shout out to that situation. So what do we want to touch on? Because we got a few minutes to wrap this up. I got a couple of hip hop things I want to acknowledge.
You know I want to go with hip hop. What we talking about today?
What were we talking about?
We were talking about J Hood.
Okay. Before we get into J Hood,
but you go right ahead and talk about what you want to talk about.
Before we get into J Hood, this platform, although we do a lot of sports content, which we do, this platform was built off of two brothers who are in love with the hip hop culture that birthed us.
Super facts.
So every time we do this podcast, even though we talk a lot of sports, which we always will, we got to stick with our base, which is hip hop as a culture and what goes on in the hip hop culture. I'm not scared to give my age away. I'm blessed to be 36 years old. One of the groups that I was listening to in the 90s in middle school was 3 6 Mafia, which is a group from Memphis, Tennessee. I never forget the time that my brother brought home a cassette, because at the time it was cassettes. And I don't know if it was Choices or whatever, but you started bringing in albums from 3 6 Mafia. It wasn't just one, it was multiple albums. Project Pat album, the group album, and so forth. And a prominent person in that group was Gangsta Boo. Want to send my condolences to her family. Unfortunately, the legend from the group, Lola, a.k.a. Gangsta Boo, passed away. I don't want to get into the hearsay of what happened because I think it's disrespectful to her family that are grieving, that love her, that lost her. But we lost a real legend. And I want to emphasize legend. This is not somebody who was just a part of the group. She was an intricate part of the group. And for what they did for the South, you got to remember, when they were putting the albums out in the late 90s, New York was popping. Big time. You know, Pac just passed, but you had, you know, Jay-Z, Ja Rule was coming out. People played Ja Rule. Ja Rule from 1998 to 2000 was putting out some bangers. You know, blase blah, but they were reaching from down south all the way up that East Coast and making their noise as well as an independent group. It wasn't just a down south hype. They was getting hype up in New York in the freaking 90s, man. So to see her pass away at like 42 years old, that was real sad, man. You got anything you want to say about that?
No, I just, as always, man, life is short. I think, you know what makes her special too, because she came from Memphis. And that's no shots, no disrespect to other people. But if you look at the female MCs, it's like most people from Cali, New York, even Miami down there with Trina. But she came from Memphis. I didn't really know nobody from Memphis.
We do.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? I always give, well, I'm just talking about culturally with black people. Just, you know, my family's from the north part of Mississippi. Before my grandmother fully came to upstate New York, she made a pit stop in Memphis because at the time, leaving in the 60s, that was still a city that was buzzing. So people would go to Memphis for jobs.
Right.
So my grandmother did a little year in Memphis, try to see if something could happen before she fully moved to upstate New York. But yo, Memphis, y'all like play cousins to us, to Mississippi. Yeah. And people always say that, but I just wanted to interject that in there.
No, you know, other than 8 Ball and MJG, I mean, there wasn't really nobody else from Memphis. And her and 3 6 Mafia, I mean, she was 3 6 Mafia. You know, she kind of put them on the map, and she solidified it. She was the first one out of there from females, especially from a female perspective. And she had me rocking with her.
Held her own on all them verses.
Yeah. Yep.
So I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. I shed a tear over that one. A lot of rappers passed away.
That came out of left field.
Out of left field, man. So rest in peace to Lola, aka Gangsta Boo. Condolences to her former bandmates. Condolences and sincere gratitude to her family. Thank you for what you did to the culture of hip hop coming from the South, man. You a legend in my eyes, and yo, party upstairs, man. Do your thing.
Thanks.
I don't know if you want to touch on on a more on another note. So we got 2 more topics. You want to go to J Hood, or you want to go to your man from Brooklyn?
We'll do J Hood and say BK for last. I'm trying to think of the BK thing.
The most beautiful girl in the world.
Oh Lord,
you know Jesus. You do with that song.
Yeah, no, he from the island.
Oh, he from Long Island. My bad. I put that on Brooklyn. My bad.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So let's save him for another time, but let's stop in Yonkers.
The thing is with J Hood, I don't know if you saw the Math Hoffa interview.
I saw bits and pieces, so you're gonna have to
really
illustrate this.
He had talked about all the things that were going wrong with the locks, and you know how they had stolen money from him. He said specifically Sheik Luch. He said that they weren't really doing anything to promote and push his career. He was feeling some type of way about it. You know, at first I think he was just in the midst of it. But then he said, you know, he was seeing how things were going. And he said once he left, he found out how everything, what they were doing wrong. You know, like the money that Grumbel tried to give him for his house, his apartment.
Burned
down. Before I go in, I want you to kind of elaborate, because for people that don't know, and we still do, but we just haven't done it before COVID. We were doing magazines, but we were also doing website. We were doing spreads on the website.
It's a digital magazine.
So it was a digital magazine on the websites. So to give a point, because you were there. I wasn't there that day when you interviewed J Hood. So you kind of know what was going on, but I remember all the notes. So, but I'm going to let you set it off, though.
Well, I have to remember, because that interview was 2010 or 11, so it's 11 years old.
But that was when it was fresh, and nobody was messing with him.
Yeah.
Nobody.
So had a chance to interview him somewhere in Yonkers or the Bronx in 2010. He probably don't even remember the interview. I can't even find a clip from it. Something happened with the memory card, but he sat down with us. He talked about his group, ODG. Is that, am I saying
Undergrind, yeah.
Undergrind, because he was just formulating that, getting his buzz going. And, you know, he briefly touched on what happened with the locks. I can't remember everything because it was an 11-year-old interview. but it was really more geared towards pushing his new group. And he had his artist with him, Stickman, that I still see with him to this day. You know, so he was really pushing his movement, and I still see him wearing the charm and stuff like that. So that was, he really didn't get too in depth at that time. It was more about pushing his label.
I remember one thing you said. You said, yo, when I stopped messing with the locks, people stopped calling my phone. You said Carmelo Anthony don't call my phone no more. You know, he was saying how people had like really kind of shied away from him. And it just goes to show, like, you know, and I get it. I mean, it's the locks. So you're not really going to bother him. I will say this, and I don't know. I'm not saying that there's no truth, because what I didn't like, I guess Styles P comes out after he sees an interview. He's mad at Mav Hoffa because Mav Hoffa interviewed him not too long before that. So he's like, why you ain't ask me about that when I was there? But Mav Hoffa is probably looking at it. First of all, let me say this. As a journalist, nobody owes you that. You could have.
I'm gonna take it a step further, and I'm gonna nip this in the bud, because we've been fortunate enough where nobody's tried this yet, and trust me, I'm not the big bad wolf. You know, I'm not the street journalist, because there's a lot of people. Pardon me, there's a lot of people that are street journalists. Just a regular journalist. I'm not a street journalist. So we're fortunate that no artists have tried this yet, but I see a lot of artists out here that's thinking these same old journalists from 1990 that works for those magazines that don't look like us. Yeah. If you see what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Y'all got more smoke for the journalists and the podcasters than the actual artists you got a problem with. Yeah. I'm going to say it again slowly. Y'all got more smoke for the people who are interviewing.
1,000%.
Who look like you. Who ain't those same skinny people that work for the magazines.
Yeah, those geeks and nerds.
You know, you got a lot of people out here that's in shape, in tune, and whatever you want to do, we want to do too. 6'2" in the gym, bench pressing, whatever. I seen 90% of y'all rappers, a lot of y'all about 5'6", and I'll just leave that there. Not saying you can't handle yourself, but don't think you're about to be bullying podcasters because y'all think y'all the cool guys, because we're starting to see a lot of y'all rappers trying to infiltrate our lane. I'll leave that there because that's a podcast for a different topic, but go ahead.
Right. And I guess, you know, Styles P is feeling some type of way. But I think with that situation, I don't think it was really Styles. He kind of seemed more like he was going after Sheik. In fairness to what J Hood's saying, I don't know anybody from D Block that's ever blossomed. Bully didn't do anything. Snipe Life, Shells, J Hood. You heard of him, but you never really saw him. So there was nothing that ever goes on. It's kind of like with D Block, and let me tell you where they did fail with Jade and them. I'm waiting to see what he does with Nino Man, because Nino Man is an exceptional talent, and I hope that Nino Man he gets the props and credit he deserves. But you know, they didn't bring anybody out, and after them going through what they went through with Puff and Bad Boy, and you know, why would you just with what J Hood is saying? Why would you do that?
Well, I caught the bits and pieces, and it was like he was saying, "Oh, you're still on this. You need to grow up. You didn't take accountability," and that's where I disagree with Styles P at. He wasn't acting rah-rah on that interview. He wasn't acting out of character. He was just telling his story, his side. Right. And when I listened to the interview, let me be straight. When I listened to the piece because I didn't watch the whole thing.
The clips.
When I listened to certain clips, he sound very apologetic. What did you want him to do? Kiss your behind and not say nothing? Because that's what it seems like.
But they all came out and said the same thing. He wasn't the only one that wasn't happy. Remy Martin was unhappy. You all saw what happened with Jim Jones and the Bird Gang. They weren't happy. You know, I mean, let me also say this. Jay-Z, everybody that went with Rock Nation was not happy. It seems to always be, come over here, do what I say, and it'll work. What happens when it don't work? It's like sometimes I get the part where you're a grown adult and you can't blame your parents for how things turned out. But when the parents are telling you to listen to them to do what they say and it don't work, well, then what do you think I'm going to do? Exactly. I'm coming to you and I'm barking on you because maybe how I did it the way I was going to do it, maybe it would have worked. You told me to do it this way. So since it didn't work,
who's take responsibility?
Who's going to take the L for it?
It's like you want to absolve yourself and say, well, you should have knew better. I was under your leadership. I was a soldier. I followed you left foot after right foot. It didn't work. I was left out in the cold. A lot of artists have this story. Perfect example, Quentin Miller's doing his media rounds, and he has a very interesting story. He's on Vlad TV telling how the industry is doing him. But we've seen this a lot in our own backyard in New York. And maybe this is the karma. Maybe this is why New York, as a region, is not popping off the way we saw it pre-2005. Maybe this is why we're in a 20-year rut where other regions are lapping us. So this certain a certain part of the South be popping, then it'll go to the Midwest, then it'll go to Cali, it'll go to Detroit, because right now Detroit rappers, and then it'll jump back down to the South. You notice that I skipped New York City, but you know, we have bits and pieces here and there. Shout out to Lola Brooke from Brooklyn. I think she just announced her deal. She's buzzing. Shout out to Griselda. It's bits and pieces, but we're supposed to be the culture of hip hop.
Yeah.
New York City veteran artists don't want to take accountability
at all
for what some of those groups did to certain artists. It's always, oh, well, the artist just didn't know the business well enough. Well, as his brother, oh, I'm sorry, you don't look at him as his brother.
Yeah.
You look at him as a check from a label.
Yeah.
Because if you really cared about him as a brother, you would look out for him at the business end too. We keep hearing the same stories from said artists, not one artist. So this is just not about J Hood. It's multiple artists.
Yeah.
I signed to a label. The project didn't go well, but then I'm not in a position to do shows to get money, And then when I speak out about it, I'm disloyal and you kick me out the group.
I don't understand that. And the thing is okay, so for example, you know, Jaja from Bergen, she never did anything. There's things where I think I was hearing rumors about Cam back then, and where these artists didn't just get up and just quit. Y'all jerked them. Just be honest about it. Be honest. You jerked them. You jerked them. Just be honest about it. There's nothing. 50 Cent was the only one that did it. He was the only one. He made sure Lloyd Banks dropped, and he made sure Tony Ayo dropped. He didn't say project and did a group project.
With the group project after he went platinum and diamond, which he didn't have to do. He could have said, "Yo, I'm going on tour. We're gonna worry about me for 5 years."
And
he went platinum, damn near diamond, and then said, "Let's do a group project."
And made sure Young Buck, Game, Yayo, and Banks all sold and got out there. And that's why, like with Game, I kind of look at him goofy. I'm not gonna get into this whole thing, but you know, like when Jim Jones was saying, like, yeah, he told me, like, oh, I'm gonna. You know, I'm gonna bring down G. Why? So the brother that helped you trying to bring him down, but Jimmy Iovine, who was ready to drop your ass, you loyal to him and all that. You dummy. You are a dummy. So my whole point is like what I'm saying is that I get it with because Deb Anthony talked about it too. She was like, I get why they do it, because she's like, they look at it as, I'm gonna do it to you before you try to do it to me. My whole point, because if you look at what Dame and Jay went through, when like Dame kept telling Jay, Leor, like I used to go to war with Leor because he was trying to play me for Jay. He's like, yo, I'll give you $1 million, try to keep Jay in the country, because it's like Debbie and he says they're trying to control you. When they can't control you, they don't want to have nothing to do with you. So my whole thing is with D Block, I don't want to say Dipset, but Skull Gang dropped. They had a whole bunch of talent. Disappeared. You dropped the ball for whatever he was going through.
Busta Rhymes
dropped the ball. Jay dropped the ball. Dipset dropped the ball. D Block dropped the ball. There's somebody else I'm leaving out of here. I don't want to say Nas. I'm not sure about Nas. I mean, I don't know who he's really brought out.
It was a Dave East situation, but I think they mutually split ways because he put Dave East on.
Yeah, he put Dave East, but like I don't think. I mean, he had the Bravehearts did come out, so it's not like he didn't try with the Bravehearts. I don't know. Even back then, let me give you an example, and I'm giving my era. So EPMD, right? They broke up. Even when they broke up, but when they were on, they had the Hit Squad.
Yep.
So they had Redman, Daz Effects, K Solo, and they had EPMD. And then when Eric and Parrish went their ways, Parrish had Daz effects. So him and Daz was rocking. Eric Sermon had Redman, Keith Murray, and Jamal. Little Jamal. Nobody knows about that, but Little Jamal. Eric Sermon kind of kept rolling with Def Squad. Def Squad, he put out a lot of people. He even tried to put a compilation together to get them all out. I don't see that. You keep seeing that like, oh, we're going to drop this person. No, you're not. Boot Camp Click was like that. Boot Camp Click put their people on. Like Black Moon came, then Smith & Wesson, then what's it, Helter Skelter, and then it was the OGC. Everybody came out, everybody ate, everybody put it on. But it's for people like, the Dip Sound on them, they dropped the ball. They dropped the ball. No matter, maybe it was something that they misinterpreted, but there was some bad business going. That didn't happen because you did everything in your power and the artist wasn't listening. Look at Jay. You dropped the ball on the Young Guns, Petey Crack, Bridget Kelly, Beanie Siegel, Freeway. All those projects failed. Every one of them. But your project didn't fail. Your project got everything.
Bridget Kelly, man.
From what I knew, she was with Rock Nation. She dropped a single. Then after that, I don't know, something went south.
Remember, we was covering Bridget Kelly back.
She went independent.
2010.
And then she's on reality TV, and I think now she's doing a podcast. I think she's left the artistry alone. I'm just assuming she has. So I don't, when you look at the resume of these people, you might, no, I don't want to go over there. You don't. I mean, I just think about the New Yorkers, and I'm disappointed, man. So when J Hood said what he said, he wasn't the only one that said that. He wasn't the only one that was unhappy. He wasn't. What more you want people to say?
And like I said, I just didn't get the back and forth after he did his interview. I mean, he shared his story the same way y'all shared y'all story about Puff.
All that J Hood has to say is, since the Locks are so loyal and so tough and so grateful for everything, name anybody from D Block that's ever came out. If I was J Hood, I'd be like, go ahead. I'll wait. I don't know about one J Hood album from the Locks D Block unit. Not one. He's not lying. He's not lying. Not Styles P. Sheik Luch came out on the Koch and everything. They made sure his project went out there. But I don't know nothing about no J Hood album. I just know from mixtapes with D Block. That's it. That's all you got. That's it. It is what it is, man.
I want to say with New York, we got to get it together.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, other regions are lapping us. There are, in parts, there are some pieces that are moving correctly. I think Griselda from upstate New York, from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I know people don't want to hear that because they're not NYC, but I think they're doing a great job putting people on.
Mm-hmm.
They got Rome Streets. They got a female artist. Conway has his team. Benny has his team. Guns has his team. And they're all moving in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Another artist, like I mentioned, Lola Brooke, she's on fire right now. She's from Brooklyn. But as movements as they were in the 90s and 2000s for New York, for some reason, that's no more. And I'll leave that there.
I just think about if Skull Gang, Bird Gang, D Block, who am I missing here? Rock Nation.
Rock Nation.
They kept it all. They would have been running the world. They always just kept together and be like, yo, G Unit, we got it all this figured out. Nobody wanted to do it.
Sad, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just hit 2 hours.
Okay.
We're gonna leave Mr. Keith Murray because that topic to me, we got to touch on that in the future.
He's in my top 5 MCs ever. And I'm just going to put that out there. I'm disappointed in what I'm hearing.
Shout out to Keith Murray, the lyricist. But Keith Murray, what he's doing in the media, we'll talk about that next podcast, but very disappointing to see that, man. Like I said, to end off the hip-hop, end off this hip-hop section, this once again, since we started off by saying this, I'm going to say it again. Rest in peace to the legend from 3-6 Mafia, Gangsta Boo. Condolences to her family, man.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to everybody that's tuned in with us. You got anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
No. I mean, I just want to say, shouts out to everybody that does keep their word, doing interviews with us. That has done interviews with us. I think nobody knows what goes into what sacrifices we make and what we put into this, and what we have to go through. So shouts to anybody that's given us an opportunity or done anything with us and collaborated with us. I'm greatly appreciative of it.
Definitely, man. Appreciate everybody that's going to listen to this on a playback, whether it's one person or 100 or 1,000, man. Going to keep growing with us and keep building till we get to where we want to go on the podcast.
Facts.
Be on the lookout for a lot of the sports content that we're releasing. We cover multiple conferences, not just American East, CAA, Atlantic 10. I think we even got a ACC game coming up this week.
Yeah.
So you're going to see some exclusive highlights and some stories coming out the ACC that we're covering. Appreciate the person that gave us our media credentials. And be on the lookout for stuff that we have coming up in sports, hip-hop, and fashion.
Yeah, Marvin Chambers, 4.0 Sports Media. Shouts out to him.
Definitely shout out that brother.
Yeah.
Real quick, we're going to give him his shine because he's been loyal and he's been somebody that's been putting in work since 2010, probably longer on his own, but since we knew him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, give him his flowers, man.
Nah, man, he's always kept his word. I think, and I'm going to say this because I think that what people don't know behind the scenes, black media, that's where
we got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So shout out Marvin, give him his flowers, but then go into what you about to say.
Well, black with Marvin, he has went through. He speaks up when you can't speak up and when you don't want to speak up, and he lets you know you need to speak up, and he speaks up, and he just doesn't
take it lying down.
Right. He just doesn't talk about it. He is about it. So he's opened a lot of doors, for us, and he's opened a lot of doors for black media, and he's set a way better example than he's talking. Yeah, I mean, he tells it better, and he talks it great, but he even shows it even on a better level, man. I mean, the brother is immaculate, and he comes through right. And I would advise anybody, any young kid trying to learn or anything, try to go over to 4.0 Sports Media if you could get an internship and let him learn under your wing, because you can learn a lot from him.
And that's saying a lot. We've been doing sports media for the people that follow us. We got our start in 2010 or 11.
Yeah,
we're doing the WNBA.
Yeah.
So we've been in it for over a decade. This ain't just 5 years, 6 years. We're going up north of 15. When we first met him, very professional.
Yeah.
Suit and tie.
Yeah.
About his business. Not with the rah-rah, and a consistent person. Very
Facts.
consistent, very consistent, very humble, but about his business. And we've been in those back rooms with him talking about we're not going to put this out here, about certain situations, but what black media goes through getting our credentials.
Yeah.
People will laugh at us. And I'm not saying us, I'm talking about black media in general, about letting you into a Power 5 school or letting you cover an NFL team. And then you'll look on the website and see that they gave media credentials to people that haven't put in enough work as you.
Facts.
And then you start wondering, why is that? Hey, I've been grinding for 11 years, but I can't get a media credential to a game because you don't feel like I have these hypothetical numbers in your head. But once again, shout out to Marvin. Shout out to what he stands for. Shout out to 4.0 Sports Media.
Yeah.
Very professional website that covers a lot of topics in sports.
Yeah, the culture all around, period.
And more importantly, shout out to the black media, even if we don't know you, because we know what you're going through.
Facts.
Deshaun Jones from Enveonline.
Sir Johnson is co-partner.
God bless.
One.